Hi, my name is Kerry Critchlow from RCR Recording Studios, and today we are going to keep covering our segment on how to write/produce a song, right? And again, very briefly, we're just going to go over a few of these steps in the process. But you want to start by finding the inspiration. This can come from like chord progressions, lyrics, sounds, drum beats, loops, movies, books, poems, media in general, melodies, like anything that you can find to inspire yourself to start writing your music. Whatever is going to get you to lay down the first few notes or what have you, like that's what you're looking for. Find your inspiration, whatever that is. It can be these things. It can be anything else. I mean, it could be a painting, like art, anything that can inspire you, right? Then you're going to start laying down the foundation, put in the first few notes, try out a few things, mess around, and just kind of see where it takes you. And then once you've got kind of a foundation laid out, you can start laying out your templates, for the verses, choruses, bridges, etc. And then you're going to start filling in the details. This can include all the little things that kind of make your music kind of feel come to life a little bit more, add more excitement, more interest, things like this. And then as you're going through this whole process, you're going to be doing this plan, do, check, and adjust process, a PDCA process, or simply just asking yourself, does this sound good to me? And if it sounds good, it's good. And if not, change it. There's nothing wrong with changing things. You're not always going to hit on your perfect ideas every single time. Like, it does happen, don't get me wrong, but like, you're always kind of asking, does this sound good to me? And if it does, keep going. And if not, then change something. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Nothing you're doing in this process is ever written in stone until you're done, like done, right? And you're releasing your music to the world. So do not be afraid to experiment. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. And today we're going to be using the key of D. Here are all the chords in the key of D, and here are all the notes that you can use in the key of D. And then you have your, we've only covered major scales, and there's a reason for that. It's simple. It's basic. Anybody can use a major scale. Here's the formula: whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. You can include some sevenths if you want, or you can include other kinds of flavors for your triads or your sevenths and things like that. Don't be afraid to experiment, like I said, and try new things. But for our purposes in this series, we're really trying to keep things simple and basic, so as not to overwhelm people that are just getting into this production thing and learning how to kind of create their own music. We will probably get into more complex things later on as we go, but for right now, I'm really just trying to keep things as basic as possible so that you can follow along pretty easily and not get bogged down too much. Today, I thought maybe we'd just start by, looking through and seeing if we can't find maybe a fun sound as our inspiration. And so we'll bring up a synthesizer here, and we'll just go through a few presets and see if any of this kind of has some fun sounds or something that kind of inspires us a little bit. I don't know, maybe. We can start with this. Like I said, where you start does not necessarily have to be where you end up. And so if you can just find something that can get you started, you can always change it later. Don't let trying to find the perfect thing hold you back from just beginning, because you never know what we might find when you just kind of start getting into it. And today, first of all, I think we want to slow down the tempo a little bit, maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll keep it a little. We'll see. We'll start where we're at. Although I may end up slowing this down quite a bit. And I thought today we could do maybe a fun little I guess you call them upstrokes, kind of reggae-ish. That it's hard to explain, but hopefully we'll show you here in a second. And maybe up an octave here. All right, so these are happening on the weak beat instead of on the right on the quarter beat. And if we bring up a metronome, you're going to hear it kind of come on the weaker beats, or the off beat, if you will. So yeah, so we want to slow this down, maybe to like 100-ish. See how that. Maybe even 90. And I think we want to bring this to an A. And then an E minor. And we're doing some inversions here. Okay, so we're starting off in a B minor, and we're in the key of D. So we're starting on the 6, then we're going to the 5, and then the 2. So it's a 6, 5, 2 progression that we got going on here. B minor, A, E minor. And if you want to know the notes that I'm using, we can do our little trick again real quick. 4, 5. So a B minor is a B minor, a D. This would be an F sharp, not an F. In the key of D. In the key of D, you have a F sharp and a C sharp, 2 sharps. So a B minor is a B, our 1, 3, 5, a B minor, a D, and an F sharp. And if we go back to our thing, that's what we have, a B minor, a D, and an F sharp. And like I said, you can use this little trick to help you out when you're first getting started. But as you do this a while, you start to memorize a little bit, and it gets a little easier to kind of get going on this stuff. But I thought I'd just run this for you so that you can kind of use this to help you figure out this kind of stuff going forward. But you can use this little trick to figure out what notes go in each chord, as we've gone over in other videos. So that was our B minor, our A. Oop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our 1, our 3, and our 5 is an A, a C sharp, and an E. And then for an E minor, we'll do our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you have an E minor, a G, and a B. A B, not a B minor. Apologize for these little mistakes as I'm going through here, but I don't, like I said, I don't tend to use this very often when I'm writing music. I don't even really tend to think about it a whole lot. The theory behind it, I just kind of go with what my ears tell me sounds good. And so having to refer to the theory is odd to me sometimes because I don't ever use the theory behind it to write music. I use it more to communicate with other people than as a writing tool, but it can give you a place to start and give you some guidance as to, what kind of things belong together. So like, for instance, you can play any of these notes in the key of D over any of these chords, and generally speaking, it won't sound bad, generally, right? It should work together. And that in theory, as they say. And so we're doing a 6, 5, 2, a B minor, an A, and an E minor. And we have our B minor here, a B, a D, and an F sharp. Then we have an A, which is an A, a C sharp, and an E. And then we have an E minor, which is an E, a G, and a B. But I have put the B taking the B, instead of having it up here, I put it down in the root of the chord so that it's the lowest note that you're hearing in the chord. And I can't remember if this is a second or third inversion. I think it's a third inversion, putting the fifth in the root. But this is what it sounds like when we play it all out. Okay. And we'll just go ahead and copy that out a couple of times. This is going to be our basic kind of chord progression here. And I call these upstrokes whenever you have this kind of offbeat sort of thing here, where it's on the weak beat. So if we're counting this out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. What's actually happening is we're doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and all these beats are happening on the and, which is commonly referred to as the weak beat when it comes to this stuff. So it's not happening. They're not happening on the actual beats themselves. They're happening in between the quarter notes. And you commonly hear this kind of thing in reggae, and it's called upstrokes because on guitar, if you're playing this on a guitar, these upstroke things, you're usually playing it kind of with your pick stroking upward on the strings instead of down. So that's where that comes from. And I'm a guitar player, and so I kind of tend to think in terms of guitar a lot of times. And so I call these kind of things upstrokes. Even though it's not a guitar that's playing them. There might be a more technical name for them, and if there is, I don't know it. So we'll start with something like that, and it's given reggae-ish kind of vibes, but I'm kind of thinking that this might be fun to incorporate maybe some like hip-hoppy kind of drums maybe off the top of my head. And so maybe we'll start there and see what happens, and you know, it may go in a completely different direction. And like I said, you don't actually even have to use drums in your productions if you don't want to. It's just, I love drums. It's one of the things that, to me, gives songs their vibes in a lot of ways. And so I tend to throw them in pretty quick or pretty soon in my process whenever I'm working on music, but you don't have to. You don't have to use drums at all if you don't want to. There's, you can do whatever you want. It's just, I tend to, it just helps me get my kind of the vibe going for me personally. So. Okay, so maybe something like this. Like I may not keep these sounds. I might change them later. I'm just kind of really, I'm trying to quickly go through this so as not to waste too much time. But you can always look through libraries and find the perfect sounds when you're doing this. So maybe something like this. And I guess we'll make these 16th notes. And I might actually want to do this with a 16th note hi-hat. Okay, yeah. And in order to give it a more human feel, we're going to just turn down the velocities of some of these hi-hats in order to give it more of a weak, strong feel. In 4/4 time, that's kind of how it goes. It's kind of like an every other. You're giving it sort of this strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. And that's just giving it a more human feel. Maybe even a little less here. Really emphasize it. Yeah. Oop. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. And then we'll just copy paste that. And that's our basic groove for now. Like I said, we can come back in and play with it and fill in the details, so to speak. We can add some more percussive elements, and I may do that. But as a general groove, this is fine. We've got a kick on 1, snares on 2 and 4, and then we've got another kick here on the... when you're counting sixteenths, you count 1 E and 1 E and 2 E and So the and's still there. We're just adding the 1 E and so the E and are what we're adding. 1 E and the kick is on the 1 E and this 16th note of the second beat here, and then we've got the 1 E, so it's on the E and the and of our second beat at 90 BPM. And I might layer this a little bit. And I might even layer this kick. Not that kick. Okay. So yeah, this is fine for now. I like I said, I may come back and change these sounds, but I'm more trying to do this in a hurry so I don't completely bore you guys while we're going through this process. I'm just trying to do some basic stuff here and move relatively quickly as I do my best to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. In this case, I just thought a 16th note groove would work pretty well with this type of vibe, and I wanted to give the kick and snare a little bit of something. It's probably not the perfect drum kit, but it'll do for now. And then I guess maybe we can look at a bass, and why don't we use our massive synth for this, and we'll just kind of, again, we're going to just go kind of look through some of the bass sounds and see if we find anything that we think might be appropriate for what we have going on so far in the song. And again, none of this is set in stone. We may find something just to kind of get the things, the ball rolling, so to speak. You don't have to spend a lot of time in this particular like step, trying to figure out the perfect sounds or whatever. You can always come back later and change things. But this is just kind of getting the basic ideas down right now. maybe something like this might be cool. And I'm just doing octaves here. So we got a B and a B, an A and an A, and those are the root notes of the chords that I'm playing, the B minor to an A. And actually I might start this A here. And I think I'm going to try and find another bass sound. I kind of like this, but so I might want to layer this with something else. This can kind of be like a low end sort of thing going on. You may not even hear this bass if you're not listening through a good set of speakers. So what we may want to do is combine this with something else just to give it a little bit more definition. not that. Maybe this instead. Yeah. And that way you're kind of hearing a little bit of definition in the top end. All right. Again, may not be the perfect sounds here, but you know, it's a place to start here. So we're going to call this bass low, and this bass is kind of like a buzzy bass ish. We'll just call it a buzz bass for now. And like I said, we can always change these sounds later. Nothing's set in stone, but you know, we're just kind of getting a groove going. And all I've done is taken, these are exact loop duplicates. The basses, I'm just kind of layering them, same sounds and all that. So we've got a B and then an octave, an A and an octave, an E and an octave, and then come back to this E, and then we're doing like a little walking bass line up to the B again. So F sharp, G, A, B, and if we go back to our thing, F sharp, G, A, B. So we're just doing a chromatic, or not chromatic, but a scale walk up. So E, F sharp, G, A, B. And if we look, E, F sharp, A, G, B. And then repeats. And then I just added a little bit of rhythmic elements. So the basses are kind of, sort of, kind of doing what the kicks are doing, kind of, but not really. But just adding a little bit of rhythmic interest to what the bass is doing. And giving it a little bit more movement, so we're not just holding on one long note. To give you some examples of how you can make your bass kind of move a little bit and you know, have a little bit of, you know, something going on here. You don't have to do it this way yourself if you don't want to, but I just thought I'd give some examples of maybe a slightly more interesting bass part than what I've been showing you lately. All right, so we're starting to have like a bit of a song coming together here, right? And this could be like a verse kind of thing. You know, we can add some more elements if we want to. Like maybe we can add some more percussive things going on with the bass, or with the drums rather. And so we can find another drum kit here. Turn it down some. And then just add maybe some percussive elements. And it can be subtle. Like, it doesn't have to be something that jumps out and grabs you, but, you know, just some subtle background stuff that might just add a little bit of some interest to what's going on in your music. And maybe even have this happen. So maybe have this happen on 1 and 3. And, you know, if we were to mute our main drum track, here's kind of what's going on. Maybe just have that kind of thing happen every now and then. And then, you know, you can even have it arranged so that, you know, we have, keep this here. So that we have this kind of thing going on. Right, so you can get creative with this sort of stuff, right? Just sort of adding in some things, really even just so you can like take them away later. And maybe have this not be here right away. Oop. Yeah. Actually, I think I like having those happen a little bit more frequently. So we'll go ahead and just put those in. Right, so we're just adding a little bit of extra percussiveness to this track as we're going. And we'll just call this like, you know, percussion for now. Let's mute our metronome rather, since we're not really using it at this point, but. And maybe we don't want these. maybe we do this. And maybe these we want to spread out a bit more. Again, it's just, no wrong or right here. We're just kind of playing around, finding what works, what doesn't, but don't be afraid to experiment, right? Okay. And so now we've got a basic, kind of groove going. Now you can add more elements to this if you want, or you don't have to. If you kind of like where it is, you can leave it kind of sparse. A lot of modern pop music does tend to leave things rather sparse. So you can just, throw some lyrics on this right here, and maybe add a few fills or some sweeps or risers or what have you. And you're probably good to go. You know what I mean? You don't have to have this bass line be so have so much movement. You can simplify it too if you want. Yeah, you can go a lot of places with this. You know what I mean? You can keep this chord progression the same the whole way through the song and just kind of like add more for a chorus section, make it a little bigger sounding if you want. You can even, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. You can go a lot of places with this. You can change up the chords if you want at this point, but briefly and then go back into it. Like there's just so many possibilities right here. You know what I mean? In this case, you might have this kind of going and then maybe just drop it again for a bar or two. So have this kind of thing come back in. And then maybe what we want to do here as well is put in some kind of paddy sort of things, just something underneath the song. Turn it down some. So you know, go this kind of thing in there. You don't, again, you don't have to use these same sounds or whatever. You know, you find what works for you. I just don't want to spend a lot of time going through every single sound to make sure it's perfect. Otherwise, this would be way too long of a video, and I don't want to bore everybody out there who might be watching this. So. Oh, oops. Want to be careful when you're copy pasting things that start on offbeats because they may not start where you think they are. And another thing we may want to look at to put in could be some sort of arpeggio type of thing. You can either do this, a lot of synths will have built-in arpeggio sounds that you can look for and browse. Some don't, and you can just make your own. Yeah, right here. So that says arpeggiated here. This one doesn't appear to have anything that is arpeggiated, so we can just take maybe a pluck sound. Or make your own if you want to. Way too loud. Sorry about that. Something like this might be cool. An arpeggio is just kind of like staccato-y movement. That you can set at different, Right. And when you're doing these arpeggios, as long as you're using the notes that are in the scale, you'll probably be okay. And you can skip stuff too. Like, so you don't have to have that be every single beat if you don't want to. So you can have them be different notes. You can have them be one note in octaves. Yeah, so you can create your own. You can have it be different notes, however you want to do it. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm really in love with this, but we'll go with it for now. And again, like I said, we can always change things later if we want to. A good way to check might be to see what happens when it's... Yeah, so that works all right here. Another note that we can try to use here instead of B is we might try D. F sharp maybe? Not sure if I'm in love with the sound, so maybe try something else. Yeah, and since I don't really want to spend a lot of time making my own right now, what we can do is, since that particular synth does not have exactly what we're looking for, I mean, I could make it. It would just take a little bit more time than I think I want to put into it. Let's see if we can find something in here that would be better. Maybe not have that come in right away. Okay, and maybe what we can do is add an oscillator here. Like, I don't know, a bar, maybe two. Let's start with one bar and see what happens. Let's shorten this here. Okay. what I might actually do is use another type of LFO kind of thing where we automate sort of a frequency drop that to maybe 45. Okay. They're just kind of having some fun with that. Okay, and I just added a little bit of a volume control there so that it kind of gets quiet after a while and then gets a little louder, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so this is kind of like a, I don't know, more of a kind of a reggae sort of poppy kind of jam here. Like I said, you can start filling in the details. You can, there's a lot you can do with this. But this is kind of like your basic structure, right? This would be the kind of the foundation. Now we can lay out templates and stuff like that. We can do like chord changes at spots or whatever. And then we can bring back in our full thing again here. And you can again, don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to play around with things. You can really take this a lot of places if you wanted to. It's just kind of a matter of what using your imagination. You know what I mean? For me, like I'm kind of hearing like some lyrical things happening over here that could, sort of make or break this. And that'd be kind of the detail part, or at least a portion of the details that you could start to use to fill this in, right? So yeah. And then maybe here you can do like a chord change of some sort. So if we come to our upstrokes here, I guess we can look at our thing here. So if we're in the key of D major, we're doing a 6, 5, 2. We can try maybe throwing in a D, a G, an F sharp minor, and see if any of these kind of chords might work. So that might be interesting. So maybe what we do is we throw in a G. To an F sharp minor. To a B minor. And actually, maybe want to take this and put that up an octave to keep it in the same sort of And maybe make this a D. To what, like an E minor maybe? We can use the same kind of drum feel here for this. And then maybe have that E minor go for another couple of bars. And this kind of be like maybe a bridge section. And then back into our chorusy thing here. Okay. Again, just kind of putting some, notes in here for this Patty section. We can even keep this Art probably doing the same thing here. So yeah, you can keep a lot of elements the same if you want. Like, you don't have to change everything up if you don't want to, or you can. You can make an entirely different drum groove and all that kind of stuff. Maybe we want to add a bass in here for this section here. And in this case, I'm going to just keep it really simple and probably just do like whole notes. And the chords we're doing is G, F sharp, E, or B. Except half of that. I think. Yeah, I think we're doing a G, F sharp, B, I think. third time. Oop. This B goes to a D, and then to an E, and stays on that E for 2 bars. E minor, I guess I should say. Okay. So, short song again, but you kind of get the idea, and then you can fill in some of the details, which this would be a fun one to do with, I think. Okay, so there you have it. Relatively basic, not a whole lot of elements going on. I like in my head, I'm thinking like there's gonna be some vocals and other little details that can really bring this out. Like so, you can do some drops, you can do some like fun fills, big crashes, a lot of little things that you can add to this song to really bring it to life. But this is like kind of a basic thing that you can really start, having some fun with. So I think I'm going to leave it there for today. But, as you can see, we're kind of really, again, we're just kind of covering these basic steps here in the process. We're finding our inspiration, we're laying down the foundation, and then we're kind of, filling out our template, right? So like we're trying to figure out, our A sections, our B sections, or our verse choruses, etc. And then, you could take this, you could write some lyrics to it if you wanted to. You could make it just a straight instrumental if you wanted to as well. Add some fun little melody stuff with various instrumentation that you could put in here. But it would still have quite a bit of work to go through before it became like a finished product, right? And that's like the details, whether it's the lyrics or the little ear candy stuff, the fills, that the sweeps, the crashes, like all these little things that kind of add up to really make this something special. Those little details are kind of lacking in this right now, but you're getting kind of the overall big picture kind of idea about what it is that's going on. All right, we have some simple drums going on here that are kind of going through the whole song. You can not find places to cut these in and out as well as we move through the song. To just add interest to it, so it's not kind of so monotonous. But like, it's a pretty basic drum loop, but it's a cool one, right? Right, and then we add in our percussion on top of that. That's just adding a little bit of extra flavor. We've got our 2 layered basses going on as well. And again, I gave it a little extra movement with this particular bass just because a lot of the basses that I've been showing you, or bass parts, bass lines I've been showing you, have been super simple and super basic. Not that this is not, this is still kind of pretty basic, but it's moving and it's giving a little bit of rhythm and movement. So it's not so stagnant, right? As a lot of the basses I tend to have been showing you are pretty stagnant and kind of on purpose, just to keep it simple. But this is showing you kind of how you could add some movement to the bass if you wanted to, right? You can add octaves in on your tonic notes or your root notes. So like if it's a B minor chord, your root note is going to be a B. If it's an A major, your root note is going to be an A, etc., right? That's what the tonic means, or the root note. It's just essentially you can put it on your bass notes on whatever the root note of your chord is. If it's a D major, it's a D. The root note is a D. E minor, the root note is an E minor, right? You can also use inversions for the bass. So like you could use, instead of putting the bass on the root note, you could put it on the 3rd or the 5th or what have you. And if you like that kind of feel, then that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. But putting bass on the root notes tends to be a good place to at least start. And then, so we gave it some rhythm, we gave it some octave movement, and then we gave it a little walk here at the end, moving up from our last chord into our first chord. This little, that do, kind of going into that B again. And then we layered the basses together so that we have one that's kind of just doing a low thing. And if you don't have a pretty good set of speakers, you're probably not even hearing it. And then we layered this bass on top so that we could hear it a little bit better. Okay. Then we have our upstrokes happening on our weak beats. And they're just playing out the chords, essentially, right? And we went over what those were as well. We have a pad instrument that's kind of just adding a little bit of extra movement note-wise, and just adding a little extra texture to the song, giving it a vibe. Right. And then we have our little arpeggio thing here that we created ourselves, and then put some effects on it. So this is without the effects. And you hear how we added the volume thing as well. So we tweaked this sound a little bit just to make it a little bit more appropriate, and then we added some effects to it, some delay, some extra delay. It already had a pretty liberal amount of delay on it, but I really wanted it to have a bit more kind of washiness or bounce to it. And then we put a this wah effect, and the wah effect is kind of doing a sweep, a filter sweep. So if we were to take the wah is kind of doing this back and forth. So if we took this wah off, so it's kind of doing that, but it's probably cutting off a little bit more of the frequency range as well. So it might even look more like brought this in a little bit here. It might look kind of like it's doing this. All right. Yeah. So it's just kind of like doing that automatically with this wah kind of thing that we set up. Okay. So you kind of see what's happening under the hood here. You could automate your EQ to do the same thing, but using this plugin just makes it a little bit easier to do that. And kind of gives it a washy sort of back, pushes it more into the background and makes it more, I don't know, less upfront, I guess, which is kind of what I wanted with this, is to kind of be sort of a backgroundy kind of thing that you're not really like, is jumping out and grabbing you. But you could add more to this. You could take some of this away. You could change the sounds to be more appropriate to what you think it ought to be. So what we're going to do, we're going to play the song one more time through, and then I think we're going to call it. But hopefully you're getting a better understanding after a few of these videos going through this process of how you can start kind of putting these basic frameworks together. I made you one, possibly two more kind of videos with this basic framework kind of stuff going on. And then we're going to start doing videos on how to add in the little details so that you can really get an understanding of how to take what these basic frameworks and then really bring them to life. And when we get into that, I'm probably going to take a pre-made sort of framework, kind of like this. Instead of showing you the process of making this, I'm going to take something I've already done and then add in the details and show you kind of how I would go about filling those out so that the videos don't become like 8 hours long. So anyways, play this one more time for you all the way through, and then I think we will call it. So here you go. All right, so there you have it. Anyways, I hope this has all been helpful and informative. I hope you are able to take this and use it to help better your own production knowledge and create your own works of art and your own wonderful music pieces. With that, I hope you have a wonderful week, a wonderful day, and a wonderful week. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.